Yeah, they should have finished the job because I've been hit a lot harder than that. And the only thing that they've managed to do is piss me off.
What up, y'all? This your boy Ace here, and welcome to Afternoons Delight. So basically with this video, if you're listening to it, that means I was able to get it up. Because I'm telling you, I've made about 3 videos talking about this major stable that should be happening in the WWE, in NXT as well. But I never able to release them either because something changes or, a few weeks ago I ended up getting sick. So I didn't have time to deliver it. And by the time the next week came around, things had changed. So, and mainly it was going to be Carmella running the group, right? So I did a video on Carmella, but now that they put her with Chelsea Green, that deflated all my plans, and now I don't want to release that video now. So this video is going to be about Damage CTRL and about their future, if they're going to be a group still, or just kind of a tie-in to what the WWE needs to do, because they need a super heel group. They need it's time for them to get a super heel group for the females. Now that we don't have Toxic Attraction no more, it's time to put some focus on that. So, anyways, let's talk about this. So, with Damage CTRL, I've always liked them. Personally, I've always liked Damage CTRL, but the problem has been with Damage CTRL, nobody cares about them. It's not working. It's a failure. Let's just admit it. It's a failure. It wasn't a successful faction by any means. They did stick with it for about 8 months, but it's probably going to be trash at WrestleMania. And I figured out what the problem was with Damage CTRL. And I hate saying this because I got so much respect for Bayley. I love Bayley, but she's the problem. Bayley, as the leader of the group, has not carried the group well at all. And it's not a diss towards Bayley. This has more to do with booking. I blame booking more than I do Bayley. They had to book this group well. She never did win a title. That was the biggest failure right there. Not winning a title as the leader of the group. Like, the reason why Mandy Rose worked real well with Toxic Attraction, she was the leader, she had the title, and then Gigi and JC had the title. Gigi Dolan and JC Jane, they had the title, the tag team titles. So it looked like that was a powerful group like Evolution was. Or the Bloodline. It looked like the female version of the Bloodline was Toxic Attraction. And that's why that shit worked. Then you had the right parts in it. You had the right leader. Then you had the right parts in it. You had 2 good prospects in Gigi and JC as her henchmen. So it worked. It worked really well. They didn't copy and paste that same formula on the Damage CTRL. Bayley was no power champion. She wasn't really getting over on her mic skills. Like whenever she got in the ring, I don't think the crowd really paid attention to what she was saying. She couldn't get Dakota Kai and Io Sky over. And that was a major problem. And I'm a Dakota Kai fan. I love Dakota Kai. That's my favorite person in the whole entire group is Dakota Kai. I think Dakota Kai is phenomenal. I think that she probably could have even carried some of those in-ring promos, but they didn't let her talk that often. You know what I mean? Whenever she did talk, I thought she did pretty well, but they just did keep it consistent and keep the mic on her. You know what I mean? So then you had Io Sky. There's a language barrier there. You know, she can't really talk for herself because she doesn't know English. So that was a problem as well with the language barrier. Even though people did like Io Sky, but if she's not able to talk, she can't get herself over. It's not like with Asuka right now, where Asuka's doing all this creepy stuff with the face paint. That's getting her over because it's like a gimmick. She doesn't really need to talk, so she's got a gimmick to get her over. But you never did introduce Dakota Kai, Io Sky to the audience because let's be honest, I love NXT, but let's be honest, only a third of the WWE viewing audience watches NXT. NXT's ratings are usually somewhere between 500 and 700,000. That's okay for NXT. I mean, that's not bad for NXT. NXT is a developmental show. Obviously, it's been good for USA. They've left it there. And it's like right below Dynamite and better than Rampage. That's the area where it's at. But Raw gets anywhere from like 1.6, 1.7, 1.8 million viewers a week. And then SmackDown gets like 2.2 to 2.5 million. So you only got like a third of the fans watching NXT. And then when you compare it to SmackDown, it's like a fourth of the fans. So in reality, you're not really, the audience doesn't know these NXT women that are coming up. You're going to have to introduce them through vignettes, promos, and stuff like that. You didn't do that with Dakota Kai and Io Sky. You know, a lot of WWE fans knew who they were, but not everybody. You got a lot of casual viewers that watch these, like watch Raw and SmackDown, and you need to be able to introduce, when you bring up people from NXT, you need to be able to introduce them to the crowd. They even do this in NXT. Perfect example, Sol Ruka. Sol Ruka is still getting vignettes. She's been in NXT for about more than a half a year now. But they gave us like 2 vignettes in the past few weeks where she was able to actually tell us about her family. I found out that her father was black. I had no idea her father was black. Because Sol Ruka looks white. She looks so white. But now I can kind of see, when I look at Sol Ruka a little bit closer, I can't see the quarter black in her. Like, I can see that she is mixed. Because of the curly hair and everything, too. And I always wondered why her hair was so curly. So it makes sense. But that was a nugget that I liked finding out about. You know, and then she was telling us stuff like her motivation, you know, the beating Zoe Stark, and how she always used to, mess up the things that she had tried, and she'll try again. How she had to perfect the Soul Snatcher, which was ugly when she first started doing it. Like, these are things that I didn't know about Sol Ruka that I'm glad I know now. You know? Very cool. And even when Toxic Attraction, when Gigi and JC fought on SmackDown, remember when they fought on SmackDown in the tag team tournament back in, what was that, like August and September? The first time they ever came out, so during the entrance, they played this vignette of them in the small screen, picture-in-picture type deal, where they played, talking about who they are and, all this other stuff about them to introduce them to the SmackDown audience. So the SmackDown audience who didn't know who the hell GZ and JC were knew who they were now, And then in the second time they fought, when they lost to Raquel Rodriguez and Aaliyah, they talked about Raquel Rodriguez and Aaliyah in a backstage promo. So it felt like the SmackDown viewers were able to get to know, okay, you got some cocky hoes right here in Toxic Attraction. Okay, now I got a little bit more of a connection to them for the reason why I should hate Gigi and JC, right? Because they're heels. They didn't ever do that with Dakota Kai and Io Sky. They just put them out there. And that's where it failed at. You didn't never let us know who they were. So how are we supposed to have an emotional tie-in to them? You know what I mean? Because, look, when the Damage Control first came out, people were excited about them at SummerSlam. When they came out at SummerSlam, they saw Bayley back. People were hyped up about Bayley because they hadn't seen Bayley in a long time. And now they saw that Bayley had like 2 new girls with her. Like, oh, snap, here we go. So they peaked right there at SummerSlam, which is not supposed to happen. That was a rookie move from Triple H. Triple H made a rookie move with that. Everything that he did with Damage Control, that needs to be a lesson in the future to never, ever do that again. What you did with Damage Control was not good at all. Like, the following Monday, you should have reintroduced Dakota Kai and Io Sky on Raw with a vignette, promos and stuff like that. It should have been like at least about 3 or 4 vignette promos running on both Raw and SmackDown. Could have ran those on both shows to let us know who Dakota Kai is, her history in NXT. Same thing with Io Sky and her history in NXT. Like, you didn't do that. You just bought them out. So I feel like this whole time with Damage Control, nobody knows who Dakota Kai and Io Sky were, and they never did care about them. They cared about Bayley, but they didn't ever care about Dakota Kai and Io Sky. That's where you messed up at. You never did place the emotional tie-in to Dakota and Io. You never did. So people didn't care about them. Look at everybody else that you brought up. Candice LeRae. Who's supposed to care about her? You know what I mean? Who else did you bring up? What's his name? Bronson Reed. You know what I mean? Tegan Knox. You didn't never introduce these people, bro. You just bought them up. You can't do that. You got to play vignettes. They even do that on NXT very well. On NXT, every time someone new comes out. They just did one for Lyra Valkyria, even though Lyra Valkyria has already been here. They've done it for Roxanne Perez, Cora Jade. They continuously do vignettes for these stars. Even the most well-known stars, they continue to do it. They continue to do it for Toxic Attraction. They did one for Gigi. I think they did one for JC, but I'm not sure. But they continue to reintroduce these ladies, right? But they did never do that with Damage Control's Io Sky and Dakota Kai. And I feel bad for Dakota Kai and Io Sky because they worked very hard. But they never did introduce them. And then when you have someone like Bayley who kind of mailed it in, I don't feel like Bayley. I think Bayley got to a point where she just didn't care on the mic. And you felt the energy. There was no energy from Bayley in these. Every time she was out there with Damage Control, she wasn't putting out any good promos for them to get them over. She wasn't getting Damage Control over. Bayley, everything with Bayley was like stuff that she did in the past to get herself over. Like she was living off her reputation. But she wasn't doing anything to enhance Damage Control at all. And there was nothing there. Now look at Judgment Day in comparison. Judgment Day had a rough period too. When Edge left and Finn Balor replaced him, nobody cared about Judgment Day. Even though you could see the potential in him because he had Rhea Ripley in there. So you was like, okay, if they could do something with Rhea Ripley though, they could get this thing on track. So what was the change that they made? Dom. Once they put Dom in association with the group, everything changed from there. Then when Dom officially joined them, he was getting natural heat from the crowd. He had this great storyline between him and Ray. Father-son thing. Boom. And then what you did at Extreme Rules, when you had Rhea Ripley, you know, basically kill Edge and Beth Phoenix, you know, send them to the gulags in the upper rooms. By the time we got the Royal Rumble, people cared about seeing Beth Phoenix and Edge get the beats. Put the beats on Rhea Ripley and Dom and Finn Balor. So Judgment Day ended up getting saved by Dom. And they never did that with Dakota Kai. I mean, they never did that with Damage Control. They never did add that member to put that group over. They knew Damage Control wasn't working, but they didn't do anything to enhance them. They never did. There was even at one point where I thought Xia Li at one point was going to join them. Remember when Xia Li attacked? Who did she attack on that SmackDown episode? Was it Tegan Knox? Y'all remember that SmackDown episode before Christmas where Xia Li attacked Tegan Knox? We were all wondering, was she joining Damage Control as the fourth member? They didn't even do that. And so, again, Xia Li's not being used well at all either. You could have put her in Damage Control. You see this little stuff like the women on the main roster right now are not being booked well at all. They're not. Rhea Ripley is the only one really like, I think Rhea Ripley, Asuka. You could say Alexa Bliss got saved. Asuka and Alexa Bliss in the last few months got saved. But everybody else, it's been terrible booking. Even Bianca Belair and Charlotte Flair, they haven't been booked that well to me because they've been coming off as boring champions. And then what's her name? Like even Ronda Rousey, has been booked well. So there's more wrong than good on the women's division on both shows. And that's why the crowd isn't really getting into anything that's going on with the women. Like, not too much. I feel like lately they've been a little bit into, the whole Becky Lynch, Lita, and Trish thing, but that's because you got Lita and Trish in there. Becky and Bayley, they had some good, back and forth as well, after the Rumble. But for the most part in this women's division, you haven't had too much interesting things going on. Let's see what they do with Carmella and Chelsea Gray. I think they got something there, but I got to see that play out. But like I said, most of what they've been doing, it hasn't been anywhere near as well as what they've done with the NXT ladies. What HBK has been doing with NXT has been phenomenal. The women's division is deep in NXT. And I don't even think everything Shawn Michaels has done has been perfect. I think he's made a lot of mistakes down there. You know what I mean? I think he'd be doing some things that are better. But it's clear that I think since they've gone to the 2.0 thing, it may have, maybe the men aren't being booked as well, but the women are. Look at Toxic Attraction. They started up right around the 2.0 time, like a little bit before that. Toxic Attraction. We don't have, the WWE roster, main roster hasn't had anything like, it's crazy that Toxic Attraction was the best thing going for a 15 to 16 month period in the whole WWE. Even though, if you throw the main roster in there for the female side, like they were the best thing going and they were in NXT. That's crazy. That's crazy. Even in recent months, you got this whole mystery thing, parking lot beatdown thing with Nikita Lyons and Wendy Choo. That's been very interesting. I think Roxanne Perez has been a great champion so far. I know some people weren't into her being a champion when she first got the belt from Mandy Rose. That's because a lot of people were mad at the whole Mandy Rose situation. But I think the whole Mandy Rose thing has been a blessing though, because just to be honest, Gigi and JC needed to get away from Mandy Rose. They got to a point where they needed to be on their own. Especially JC. I think JC was the main one that needed to get away from both of them so that she could start to blossom without them. Because they were kind of in her way because she was in the shadow of them. But we'll talk about that another time. I don't want to get inside in this video. But, you got a lot of good things going on in NXT. Knockouts division and Impact Wrestling. I know a lot of y'all don't watch Impact, but, the Knockouts division has always been pretty good. But you don't see that same booking in the WWE. Obviously, AEW booking has been terrible with the ladies, so there's no reason for me to bring the AEW ladies up. But I would even say right now, the Outcast, the new Outcast group with Saraya, Toni Storm, and Ruby Soho, I could say I could say already that's being booked better than Damage CTRL. Slightly better. It's still not all the way good, but like I think that it's been booked way better than Damage CTRL. You know what I mean? So I give Tony Khan something on that one. But overall, Damage CTRL though has been booked horribly. Horribly. And it's a real shame, man. It's a real shame because Dakota Kai and Io Sky are really good in the ring. And I really love Bayley, but something's got to change. So going forward with Damage CTRL, enough about the past and what they haven't done right with it. Let's talk about what they can do right with it. Now, I don't know what's going to happen at WrestleMania, but it looks like it's going to be a change. So this is my proposal on what should happen. Now, I did see Bayley with Indy Hartwell in the picture. And if they were to keep Bayley as the leader, I think that could still work with if you're able to add Indy Hartwell into the group, But I think the direction that they should go in is Trish Stratus leads Damage CTRL. Now, the reason why I say this is because there's some plans for her to turn heel. Now, I originally did not want her to turn heel. Okay? I didn't. I think because I think she's a legend. The crowd likes Trish Stratus and Lita too much for them to really turn either one of them heel. But if you're going to go this direction, you might as well get your money's worth out of it, right? So Trish Stratus is rumored to take on Becky Lynch at SummerSlam in Detroit on August the 5th, right? Where I think you can maximize this opportunity. So it sounds like Trish is going to be here for a run, right? It sounds like this is not going to be a brief thing for Trish just to be here for WrestleMania season. So my thinking is this. If she's going to turn heel, why not have Trish Stratus be the new leader of Damage CTRL? Why not? Because now you got somebody who the fans care about, and she could get the group over. So my proposal was this. Either at WrestleMania or the night after either WrestleMania, April 1st, 2nd, whatever they're doing the match, or April the 3rd, the Raw after WrestleMania. Have Dakota Kai and Io Sky turn on Bayley. She's no longer the leader of the group. It's going to be Trish Stratus now. Trish Stratus starts to recruit some other girls. She recruits, let's say she recruits Indy Hartwell, Zoe Stark, just some of the girls that are supposed to be on the main roster this year that's supposed to graduate from NXT. Anybody who like that. Just put some girls in there. Another one that I was thinking of was Tiffany Stratton, but I don't know if Tiffany Stratton is ready for the main roster yet. But could you imagine? Because for those guys that know about Trish Stratus, like back in the day, she used to have this like blonde bimbo type heel persona. You know, stuck up blonde or whatever. And that's basically Tiffany Stratton's character right now. It's like a cross between old school Trish Stratus and Mandy Rose. You know, where she's stuck on herself. Trish Stratus under the wing. Tiffany Stratton under the wing of Trish Stratus would be perfect. Perfect. I think you could do that. I think if you bring up Tiffany Stratton and put her under Trish Stratus in a group like this, that'd be perfect. That'd be perfect. The only thing that you have to do is you have to figure out how long you're going to have Trish around to carry the group. But I think at some point you find a permanent leader after she leaves. And I think it should be one of the NXT girls. I think Dakota Kai could do it, but they've ruined Dakota Kai to the point where Dakota Kai can't really lead anything because they still haven't really established who Dakota Kai is, why we should care about Dakota Kai, and all this other stuff. They still have not done that with Dakota Kai. So that's why I can't make Dakota Kai the leader, because they still haven't done anything with her. You know what I mean? If they would have did that when she first joined Damage CTRL, it would be a whole different ballgame now. Because she got the mic skills. She can get in there. I think she's better than Bayley on the mic. Because I noticed it in that Byron Saxton interview where she cut that promo out for the Raw season premiere. Bro, go back and watch that. That shit was good, bro. That shit was good. That was pretty good. So she should be able to do that. And my goal all along has been do something similar to what you did with Toxic Attraction, the Bloodline, copy and paste what made that work, right? Have a deep storyline involved. The deep storyline should be everything coming full circle for Cora Jade. The main goal of this group, it should be Cora Jade's journey. It should be Cora Jade's story. The whole thing with Damage CTRL should be Cora Jade's story. Because she should be the eventual leader of the group. Because I got Cora Jade and JC Jane as my top two heels in NXT right now. My top two heel prospects. But since Cora Jade's a little bit younger than JC, Cora Jade's only 22, JC's 26, you got a little bit more room. And she's right next to Roxanne Perez. That's Roxanne Perez's main rival. So you can always build up that Roxanne Perez versus Cora Jade storyline. All for the next 10, 15 years. Your foundation is there right now to build the women's division around Roxanne Perez and Cora Jade for the next 10 to 15 years. So why not give Cora Jade everything? Give her a heel stable that can help her win titles and everything like that. Because what I would do is this. I have Trish Stratus go down to NXT, start talking to some girls down there. So when Cora Jade comes back to TV, have her talk to Cora Jade about leading a group down in NXT. Recruit some girls, like a Jakara Jackson. See, Ava Raine, I like what they've been doing with her. Like, Schism hasn't really been working, but Ava Raine has. I put Ava Raine in there. If Zoe Stark isn't on the main roster, I put Zoe Stark in there as her main enforcer. So I got Jakara Jackson in there. I put Tatum Paxley in there. Tatum Paxley, one of my favorites down there, by the way. I put Tatum Paxley in there. Danny Palmer, I'll turn her heel. If Tiffany Stratton's still down there, I'll put her in there. I make this a super group. A super heel stable group, bro. And then they're going to be the ones, they're going to come up, when they come up on the main roster, they're going to go to the main Damage Control roster. So the whole thing for Trish Stratus is to get titles and money, right? Like what Booker T always talks about. Checks and titles. So that's what you do. With Trish Stratus. Trish Stratus takes over the group. She gets into Dakota Kai and Io Sky's heads. She starts building a super heel stable group. And she goes down to NXT and builds another group down there so that they can take over NXT, try to get the belt from Roxanne Perez, which is going to be Cora Jade's role. And boom, you got something powerful. And then you could start to line up the story of how Cora Jade's going to take the group from Trish Stratus. You know what I mean? Or whoever's the leader, just in case, Cora Jade's still stuck in NXT for another couple of years. So that's how you're going to build the story. Maybe have Indy Hartwell be the one, or Tiffany Stratton take over the group. Let's say you put Tiffany Stratton in the group this year, or Indy Hartwell. Indy Hartwell, they try to take the group for Trish Stratus. That's the story you should be building, is how one of them are going to take the group from Trish Stratus. Because remember, the one thing that I like about Indy Hartwell's character is that she's supposed to be the locker room leader, right? So she's got a natural leadership approach. She can get the girls on her side to turn on Trish, right? And I'll make her the new leader. I get Dakota Kai out of there. I get Io Sky out of there. And it's going to be similar to what AEW is doing with the Outcasts of Ruby Soho, Toni Storm, and Saraya, where it's the non-AEW homegrown talents battling the AEW homegrown talents. So I do that where it's all about the NXT girls against the veteran girls. And y'all could do this war between the NXT girls and the main roster girls, right? That'll be a good storyline, a war between the NXT girls and the main roster girls. You can have this whole thing where the NXT girls feel like they're better than the veterans that are on the roster right now. They're not carrying their weight right now. So you make this whole war storyline like you did back in the day with remember when it was WCW and ECW versus WWF back in 2001? You could recreate that. You know what I mean? And I think that'd be genius. Because you can run that storyline for quite a few months. You can run that storyline for about almost a year if you do it right. Because I saw this dude, he did an AEW versus WWE storyline with WWE 2K22. He did a whole storyline, bro. Y'all should watch that video, by the way. He did a whole storyline, bro. And it was done really well, guys. It was done really well. So I think he should do that again. I think he should, I think the WWE should look at that and figure out how you could do an NXT ladies versus WWE ladies storyline. The pros against the rookies. I think that'd be phenomenal. And it's all tied into Damage CTRL, right? Because that's going to be the whole thing with Cora Jade. Like the vision of Cora Jade, Indy Hartwell, whoever you got as your leaders to try to overtake these old veterans. Because they feel like they're better than them. So you can tell that story. I think that'd be perfect. I think that'd be perfect if you could tell that storyline. I really do. And it'll give you something for the future to build on. You know what I mean? But I will start it out with Trish Stratus taking over Damage CTRL. Because she's going to be a heel anyways. Why not utilize her to get Damage CTRL over? Or have her get her own group. If they're going to end Damage CTRL, Trish Stratus should get her own group. Start recruiting girls from NXT. Because I think you have to have those NXT prospects in there to make this group work. That way people can really care about it. And prospects is different from what they did with Dakota. Because Dakota Kai and Io Sky weren't prospects. They were old already. I'm talking about girls that are like 26 and younger. Bring them in there. Like Indy Hartwell, I think who's only 26 as well. You put her in that group. You put JC Jane in this group. Although I want to see JC with a solo run for a little bit. So she doesn't get overshadowed. Like she did Toxic Attraction. So that's what I'll do, man. That's what I will do. You know, I'm going to talk further about this. I definitely want to get this video in before WrestleMania because I want to see how this is going to play out too. But I'm going to talk further about how this can go over the next few months. You know what I mean? So it's definitely going to be a part 2 to this. And y'all definitely got to stay tuned to it. Because, like I said, I really do believe that if they do this the right way, this could be pretty fun. Like, I think the whole thing is you got to get the right leader in there. You know, for me, I think Bayley is just mailing. I think Bayley needs a new change of scenery. She's been traveling a lot. I think she has some things she wants to do outside of pro wrestling. You know what I mean? I think it's time for Bayley to maybe just take a break from the wrestling industry. You know, she got some friends on AEW. She should go over there. I think she needs. She could join that group. You know, with Saraya and them, man. I think she should really, like, when her contract ends, I think she should really think about that, man, and take a break. But I would like to see Bayley with Indy Hartwell though. Like that's the one thing I do kind of want to see if they keep it together. But I think if you could give Trish Stratus a stable of heels from NXT, dog, that group could get over. Because she could put them over like Mandy Rose put Gigi and JC over. She could put them over, bro. And that's what they need right now. They need a group like that, bro. A power group. A power heel group like that. Because it should have been like Evolution. Because remember when Randy Orton and Batista came out of Evolution, 2 youngsters? That's how Damage CTRL should be. So we'll see how they do this. I had an idea with Liv Morgan leading them too if they didn't use Trish. And she turned heel. I think Liv Morgan could be another one that they could use. But let's stick with Trish Stratus for now. Let me know what y'all think about this. I'm going to talk to y'all in the comment section. We definitely going to do part 2. And part 2 is going to be about how this is going to go in the first few months. So let's say Trish takes over. When does she start doing the recruiting process? When does she go down to Orlando to recruit, people to come up? Do we see anybody tonight at the Raw from NXT come up and join them? The night after WrestleMania on Raw, April the 3rd. Do we see anything like that? So I just want to leave this out there for now, man. Let me know y'all early thoughts on this, man. And I'm going to catch y'all later, man. Thank y'all for watching. After News to Light.